comment section mentioned that the model minority stereotype doesn't seem to be true in the UK. And they're right. The reason why there is no model minority myth in the UK helps explain why there is a model minority myth in the US. And it has to do with immigration patterns. The term model minority first appeared in the 1960s in the New York Times Magazine. Actually, the label stuck, and the assumption of non-oppression that it implied came with it, which is insane because Asian Americans have dealt with an insane amount of oppression in the United States. Kitano and Su's 1973 study. They were saying they are perceived as a model minority because of historic immigration patterns. They were being overlooked in terms of research attention and aid. Go without saying the model minority myth is false, misleading, simply not true. In the United States, the South Asians that were coming here were largely coming here because of immigration filtering. So the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act, which later became the H-1B pipeline, selected heavily for highly educated immigrant populations. So like PhDs, doctors, engineers, scientists, academics. A very large portion of South Asian immigrants coming into this country were kind of pre-screened for having advanced degrees. By the way, this was not the first batch of South Asians that came here. One of the large batches of South Asians that came here actually entered as farm laborers, and that's a whole separate conversation for another time. Predates the Immigration and Nationality Act by 3/4 of a century. Anyway, the stereotype of the model minority isn't actually describing the minority. It's describing a pattern of immigration and who was getting visas. The UK, in contrast, has a completely different South Asian migration history. I'm not an expert on the UK's Asian population, so I can't speak to their history in full. But I do know that post-World War II, they had a lot of labor migration coming into work in factories. Working class migration, chain migration, whole communities, rather than filtered professionals, find the UK's immigration pattern with South Asians. So think about the fact that South Asians coming into the United States are being framed as this model minority, and South Asians going into the UK don't have that same sort of perception about them. They're coming from the same place. So we're not making a commentary at all about the people. We're making a commentary about who we allowed into the country. Stereotypes that change based on border policy aren't actually stereotypes about the people. They're stereotypes about the policy.